The planet Vesmera was a land of ice without end. The sky was always pale, the sun always distant, and the wind always cold enough to sting the skin like tiny glass shards. Snow covered the mountains, rivers, and valleys all year, and the world felt silent, as if holding its breath. Life survived there, but only by becoming like the land, cold, distant, and strong. The people of Vesmera were tall, pale, and quiet. Their bodies were adapted to the freezing climate. Their skin stayed cold to the touch. Their hearts beat slower than humans, and their culture avoided physical contact. To them, warmth was pain. Heat felt like burning. Touch was something only done when necessary. Among these people lived a young woman named Leary. Leary was different, not in appearance, but in feeling. She had the same snow-white hair, pale silver eyes, and calm expression as everyone else. She moved with the same silent grace and spoke with the same reserved tone. But inside her there was something she couldn't describe, a small, steady ache. A question she didn't know how to express. Is there something more than just endurance? When Leary looked upon the auroras that danced across the sky each night, ribbons of green and blue swirling like living light, she felt something warm inside, even if her body never had. She wondered what warmth really felt like. No one on Vesmera ever hugged, touched, or comforted another. Emotions were quiet, faint, never shown. Leary grew up knowing only stillness and frost. She never asked for more, but she always wondered. Her life changed the day fire fell from the sky. The crash from the heavens, it began as a streak of orange light across the gray clouds, bright, burning, wrong. Fire was not natural on Vesmera. The people stopped in the village square, staring upward, unsure whether to fear or worship what they saw. The streak fell rapidly, growing brighter, until it vanished behind the distant ice fields. A few seconds later, a deep boom rolled across the land and a faint column of steam rose into the air. The elders ordered everyone to stay away. Foreign objects were dangerous, foreign heat even more so. But that ache inside Leary grew stronger. A whisper inside her told her she must see what fell. So quietly, without speaking to anyone, she began to walk toward the smoke. The snow was deep, and the wind harsh. But Leary walked with steady steps. Her people were used to traveling through storms and frost. Hours passed as the smoke grew nearer. At last she reached a large crater in the ice. Inside, half buried in snow, was a strange metal object, curved, broken, still steaming. No Vesmeran craft looked like this, and lying beside it was a person. He had dark hair, a warm skin tone, and clothes like she had never seen before. His body shook from the cold. His fingers were pale, his breathing uneven. Leary had never seen a human in person before, but she knew the stories. Humans were explorers. They traveled from star to star. They lived in places full of warmth and color, but here he was dying. Leary stepped closer. The cold did not affect her, but him it was crushing. His eyes opened slowly, unfocused, lost. Help," he whispered. Leary froze. No one had ever asked her for help in this way before. On Vesmera, people survived alone. But something in his voice pierced through her. She knelt beside him. "If you stay here, the frost will take you." He tried to speak, but his teeth were chattering too hard. Very gently, Leary reached her hand toward him. She hesitated. Her people did not touch. Warmth meant pain. Skin-to-skin contact was rare and avoided, but he would die if she didn't act. So she touched his shoulder. For the first time in her life, Leary felt warmth. It was not burning, not painful, not frightening, just warm. She inhaled quietly, her chest tight with surprise. The human blinked slowly. "Your hand. It's cold, but gentle," Leary swallowed. "You must stand. I will take you to shelter." He tried to rise, but his legs shook, so she supported him with her arm around his back, her strength steady and calm. He leaned on her heavily, but she did not mind. "What is your name?" Leary asked softly. "Daniel," he whispered. "I am Leary." Shelter from the storm, Leary could not take Daniel to the village. The elders would turn him away. Maybe worse. So she took him to an old traveler's shelter carved into the ice cliffs, a place once used by hunters long ago. It was cold and empty, but blocked from wind. Daniel sat down slowly, shivering hard. His breath came in short gasps. Leary studied him, trying to understand what a body unadapted to cold needed. Vesmerans kept warm by low blood flow, slow metabolism, and internal cold resistance. Humans were different. "You are dying," she said plainly. Vesmerin spoke without softening the truth. Daniel gave a weak laugh. "Not my best day." "Yeah." He tried to smile, but exhaustion pulled it away. Leary did not know how to comfort him. Words of comfort did not exist in her culture. So she asked quietly, "Why were you here?" He closed his eyes. "Exploration mission. We were mapping uncharted systems. A navigation failure. We dropped from orbit." His voice trembled, not just from cold, but from memory. Leary waited. Silence was a form of respect in her world. "Everyone else." His voice broke. "They didn't survive the crash." Leary bowed her head. She did not know sorrow through touch or expression, but she understood loss. "I am sorry," she said. The words felt simple, but true. Daniel's eyes softened slightly. "Thank you." The decision of warmth, but his condition worsened. His breathing grew slower. His skin grew too pale. He needed warmth. The only warmth here was Leary herself. She looked at him, this stranger from the sky, weak yet still fighting to breathe. No one had ever needed her before. No one had ever looked at her the way he did, trusting her. A Vesmerin would never do what she was about to do. But Leary was not like others. She knelt in front of him. "Daniel," she said softly. "Hold on to me," he blinked weakly. "Leary, your people. Touch hurts you." "Perhaps," she whispered. "But I will try." Slowly, carefully, he lifted his arms. And Leary leaned into him. Their bodies met, cold and warm, like winter meeting spring. Leary gasped quietly. It was not painful. It was gentle warmth spreading through her chest, her arms, her heartbeat. A warmth she had never felt in all her life. Daniel exhaled shakily, relief washing over him. Thank you." "Leary." His voice was small, tired, but full of sincerity. Leary did not know why her throat tightened, or why her heart felt suddenly full and heavy at the same time. She only knew she did not want to let go. For the first time, she understood. Warmth did not destroy. "Warmth gave life," she whispered, barely audible. "I did not know warmth, until now." Daniel's head rested softly against her shoulder. His breathing slowed, not from weakness now, but from calming. He slept. Leary stayed awake, watching him with quiet care. Outside, a cold wind howled. Far away in the village, the elders saw the smoke too, and they were already on their way. Morning came slowly on Vesmera, though the sky never truly brightened. The world remained cold and gray, but the winds were calmer. In the small ice shelter, Leary sat awake, watching Daniel sleep. His breathing had become steadier in the night. His skin no longer looked deathly pale. The warmth they shared had kept him alive. But even now he shivered faintly, the cold never letting go of him. Leary studied him carefully. Humans were so vulnerable here. Their bodies needed warmth constantly. Their hearts beat faster, their lungs breathed quicker. Daniel looked peaceful while sleeping, but she knew he was far from safe. Her world was colder than any place his kind were meant to survive. Yet he was here. She did not understand how something so warm and fragile could cross the stars. But she respected it. Daniel did not feel weak to her. He felt brave. Leary had never known bravery like his. Her people survived the cold by becoming cold themselves, but he survived by fighting it. A small sound broke the silence. Crunch, snow footsteps. Leary's eyes widened. Someone was approaching. The elders arrive. She stood quickly and stepped outside. The wind carried voices, faint, stern, unmistakable. A group of Vesmerins walked across the snowfields, led by Elder Sorel, one of the oldest leaders in the village. The elders were followed by several strong hunters. Their eyes carried suspicion and their steps were firm. They came for the crash. They came for the human. Leary felt something unfamiliar rise in her chest. A tension, a warning, fear, not for herself, but for Daniel. She walked toward them slowly, her posture calm, her face expressionless as was the Vesmerin way. Elder Cyril stopped before her. His voice was cold and smooth. "Leary, you left the village without permission yesterday." "Yes," she answered. "There was fire from the sky, an unfamiliar object. We feared danger, and now we see you here. Tell us what you found." Leary did not lie. Vesmerans rarely lied. They saw no purpose in deception. I found a traveler. His ship crashed. He is injured. He needed help. The hunters exchanged glances. Their expressions remained quiet, but in their eyes there was alarm. Elder Cyril's voice softened, but not with kindness, only with control. A traveler from another world is not our concern. The cold is our home. Warm-blooded beings do not belong here. Leary knew what he was implying. Daniel would not be allowed to stay. He will die if left alone, Leary said simply. Cyril's gaze remained steady. That is not your burden. Leary looked back toward the shelter where Daniel still slept. But I chose it. For the first time, a flicker of surprise crossed the elder's face. Vesmerans rarely chose anything emotional. Life was duty, order, tradition. They did not act for personal feeling. A cold wind passed between them. You have touched him, Cyril said quietly. Leary did not answer. Warmth changes the body. The elder continued. It corrupts the balance of ice within us. You know our laws. Physical contact is limited. Too much changes who we are. Leary's voice came slow, thoughtful, not defensive, just true. Then perhaps we must change. A ripple of shock moved through the hunters. Elder Cyril's expression hardened. Bring the outsider. Several hunters stepped past Leary. Leary moved to block their path. The hunters stopped. Vesmerans did not often show aggression, but they understood stance and intention. Leary's eyes, pale as frozen lakes, held steady. You will not touch him, she said. One hunter spoke, voice cold. Leary, step aside. You are letting warmth cloud your judgment. But Leary shook her head. No, I am seeing clearly for the first time. The moment grew sharp, like ice cracking beneath weight. Elder Cyril's gaze darkened. Then you choose exile. Exile on Vesmera meant death for most. No shelter, no food supply, no protection, but Leary did not hesitate. I choose him. The journey to the cave's Elder Cyril signaled the hunters to withdraw. They did not fight. Vesmerans avoided violence unless necessary, and Leary was not their enemy. She was simply lost to warmth in their eyes. But the decision was final. Leary waited until the elders disappeared into the gray distance before she went back inside. Daniel had woken during the confrontation. His eyes were open, tired but alert. You're banished because of me, he said, voice heavy with guilt. Leary sat beside him. I chose to help you. I do not regret it. He looked at her, truly looked, and his eyes softened. What are we going to do now? He asked. We must leave the open fields. The elders will monitor the area soon. There are caves to the south where the ice is thick and stable. They will hide us better. Daniel nodded, though he clearly struggled to rise. Leary offered her arm again. Without hesitation, he took it. They walked slowly across the snow. Daniel leaned heavily against her, his steps uneven. Leary adjusted her pace to match his. The path was long, but Leary knew the land. Each step had purpose. The wind howled as they moved. Snow lifted around them in swirling waves. The world was cold, but Leary felt warmth at her side. That warmth made her steps feel lighter. After several hours, they reached a series of ice caves carved by ancient glaciers. The walls shimmered with frozen light, glowing faint blue from trapped minerals. Leary guided Daniel inside, away from the harsh winds. He sat against the wall, breathing slowly. Thank you, he murmured. Leary sat beside him, but she did not lean against him this time. Touch felt different now. Not forbidden, just meaningful. If it happened, it should happen with intention, not desperation. Daniel looked around the cave. Your world is harsh, but beautiful. Leary's expression softened in a way that was new, a gentle easing of the eyes. It is home. He smiled faintly. And now, I guess it's mine too. Leary looked at him, something blooming warm in her chest. Then I will teach you how to survive here. The first lesson of warmth, Daniel needed heat, but Leary could not rely on body warmth forever. She needed to find a sustainable source. She gathered dried frost moss and hardened resin crystals from the cave walls. When crushed together, they sparked small flames. Cold flames, ones safe enough for Vesmerans to tolerate. She made a small fire. It flickered softly, barely warm to her, but enough to help Daniel. He held his hands toward it, exhaling slowly. Leary watched his face. Humans expressed emotions openly: surprise, relief, exhaustion. It fascinated her. On Vesmera, emotions were quiet, almost hidden. Daniel noticed her watching and smiled. "What are you thinking?" Leary considered her answer carefully. "I am thinking that your face moves a lot." Daniel blinked and then laughed. A warm, genuine sound. Leary did not laugh, but something inside her felt lighter. Daniel looked at her closely. "Leary, why did you save me, really?" She lowered her gaze to her hands. Pale, thin, cold. "My world is endless winter. It has always been this way. I lived as everyone else did, quiet, unchanging, but then you fell from the sky. And for the first time I felt something warm, not just on my skin, inside me." She placed a hand gently on her chest. "I wanted to understand that feeling." Daniel's expression turned soft. Deeply. "Soft? And you did," he whispered. Leary nodded. "Once, yes, and I do not want to lose it." Daniel's breath trembled. Not from cold now, but from something else. He reached out his hand slowly, giving her a choice. Leary looked at it, then she placed her hand in his. Cold and warmth met. Gently, naturally. No pain. Only understanding. The ice caves glowed faint blue in the early light. The air was cold but calm. Leary and Daniel sat close to the small, flickering cold flame fire. Daniel had recovered enough strength to sit upright and breathe without shaking. His eyes still showed exhaustion, but also determination. Leary watched the flames dance softly. She had seen fire before in theory, but never like this. Used not for destruction, but for protection. Daniel taught her how humans used warmth. How they built homes, held each other, smiled freely. His words felt like stories from another universe. In return, Leary taught Daniel how to listen to the wind, how to read ice patterns, how to walk on frozen fields so one didn't fall through hidden cracks. Their worlds were different, but together they formed something new. But peace could not last. A deep, distant horn echoed across the ice. Daniel flinched. What was that? Leary's expression changed. She knew the sound. "It is a search call. The winter hunters are looking for us." Daniel tried to stand, but his body still moved slower than hers. "Then we should run," he said. Leary shook her head slowly. "They know these lands. If we run, they will always follow. If we hide, they will find us eventually." "Then what do we do?" Daniel asked. Leary looked toward the mouth of the cave, snow swirling outside. A decision had been forming inside her since the night she held him. A quiet decision, but strong. "We face them," she said. Daniel stared at her in disbelief. "Leary, your people think warmth is dangerous." "They think I am dangerous." "Yes," she said simply. "But they are wrong." Daniel opened his mouth, searching for words. Leary placed her hand over his gently, cold and warm together. "I used to believe we must remain distant. I believed we must be untouched by warmth to survive. But I was only frozen. My heart was cold, not because the world was cold, but because I never knew there was another way." Her voice stayed soft, but her eyes were steady. If warmth can melt even one life of frost, then it is not something to fear. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. Gratitude, respect, something deeper. He nodded slowly. "Then we face them. Together." The hunters of ice footsteps echoed across the snow. Figures approached through the white mist, 4 hunters and Elder Cyrell leading them. They entered the cave slowly, their breath rising like thin clouds. The hunters stopped when they saw Leary and Daniel standing side by side. Elder Cyrell looked at Leary, and his voice carried disappointment rather than anger. "You left our village. You broke tradition. You bonded with warmth. Why have you not let him go?" Leary stepped forward. "Because letting him die would make us less than who we could be." The elder's pale eyes narrowed slightly, but his tone remained even. "Our ways have kept us alive for generations. We do not change what protects us." Leary did not lower her gaze. "And yet we do not live. We only endure." The hunters shifted, uncomfortable. Vesmerans did not speak of emotion. But Leary spoke now with clarity, not rebellion. "I was alive, but I never felt life. I never knew comfort. I never knew connection. We have closed ourselves to warmth. Not because it harms us, but because we feared what it might awaken inside us." Cyrell's voice hardened. "Warmth weakens the body. It disrupts the balance of cold that sustains us. Leary extended her hand toward Daniel. Daniel took it without hesitation. Their hands joined, cold and warm. "Then look," Leary said. Her hand did not flinch. Her skin did not burn. Her expression did not show pain. "Warmth has not broken me. It has given me strength I never knew." Cyril stared, a breath caught in his chest. The hunters watched silently. Daniel stepped forward, voice gentle but steady. "I am not here to harm your world. I didn't come on purpose. I lost everything in the crash. But Leary saved me. Not because of duty. Not because of law. But because her heart spoke before your rules did." He took a slow breath. "You see warmth as weakness. But where I come from, warmth is how we live, how we trust, how we grow. Not just physical heat, but care, connection, belonging." His voice shook slightly. "Not from fear, but from meaning. I am not asking to change your world. I am only asking to survive in it, and to not take away from Leary the warmth she chose." Silence followed, deep as winter itself. The wind howled faintly outside the cave. The elders' test Cyril stepped closer, studying Leary's face. "There is a way to know the truth," he said. Leary nodded. Vesmerans did not lie. They tested. Cyril raised his staff and touched it lightly to the ice floor. A faint vibration spread through the cave, like the mountain itself listening. "If warmth has damaged your core," Cyril said quietly, "your inner cold will falter. Your heartbeat will change." Leary closed her eyes. Daniel watched her nervously. Cyril placed 2 fingers lightly on Leary's wrist. Checking the slow pulse of her icy bloodstream, the cave held its breath. For Vesmerans, a normal pulse was slow, steady, almost silent. If warmth had disrupted her core, the heartbeat would race uncontrollably. Cyril waited. 1 beat, 2, 3. Slow, calm, balanced. His eyes widened, not dramatically, but in the subtle way of his people. "Shock contained, you are unchanged," he whispered. "No," Leary replied gently. "I am improved." Cyril lowered his hand slowly. The hunters murmured, confused. "How is it possible?" one asked. Leary stood with quiet strength. "Because warmth is not danger, it is life. We feared it without ever knowing it." Daniel spoke softly. "You survived by freezing your world. But perhaps now, you can survive by opening it." Cyril looked at Daniel for a long moment, not as an outsider, not as a threat, but as something new. After a long silence, the elder finally spoke. "If we allow you to stay, Daniel, our ways will change. Our children may grow up knowing touch, comfort, warmth." Daniel nodded. "Then they will grow up knowing life." Cyril closed his eyes slowly, a sign of deep thought. When he opened them again, the decision had been made. Then we must learn to live with warmth. And not fear it. Leary exhaled softly. Relief, gratitude, quiet joy. Daniel squeezed her hand once. She squeezed back, the first home of warmth. The cave did not remain a hiding place. It became a beginning. The village did not welcome Daniel with celebration. Vesmerans did not show emotion so openly. But they built him clothing suited to the cold. They carved a warm, sheltered dwelling for him beside Leary's. They learned to make small, cold flame fires for humans, while humans learned to give gentle contact for comfort. Slowly, carefully, the world changed. Children began holding hands during storms so they wouldn't be afraid. Parents learned to place a hand on a child's back when they were scared. Elders learned that a quiet embrace could heal grief. Not everything changed quickly. Not everyone understood. But the change had begun. Leary and Daniel stood together often at the edge of the frozen cliffs, watching the auroras dance. One evening, as soft lights rippled across the sky, Daniel spoke quietly. "Leary, you saved my life." Leary turned to him, her expression gentle, calm, but warm in ways only he knew. "You gave me life," she replied. He wrapped his arms around her, carefully, respectfully, lovingly. She held him back without fear. Warmth and cold did not break one another. They completed one another. Above them, the auroras shimmered brighter, as if the sky itself was learning warmth too.